Hello friends, and welcome back to the Mothership. Today I'm going to show you how to dry brine up your very own maple and honey maple Canadian bacon. Let's get started. Now we are going to dry brine this Canadian bacon using the equilibrium method. I like this method because it yields very consistent results, so you can really fine tune the way you like your results, and then every single time you make it, it'll come out pretty much the exact same. We're going to use a little bit of math to come up with our dry ingredients, cover it completely, vacuum seal it, toss it in our fridge for a predetermined amount of time, and on the other side we have this perfectly dry cured bacon. Then we're going to smoke it down for a couple hours, get some nice smoky flavor on there, and then when you finally fry it up on the other side, you're going to get this beautiful looking Canadian bacon. And here's how we do it. Now what we have here is about 4 pounds of pork loin. This is different than tenderloin, guys. This is a different spot on the animal. It has much more fat, and it's much better for that Canadian bacon. And as you can see, the grocery store did me the favor that would usually make me super angry, and they cut it in half. But in this scenario, it's not that bad because I was kind of toying with the idea of doing 2 different flavors, and this just makes my decision for me. So one of them I'm going to do with the sugar coming from just maple sugar. I'll have a link down below of a different product that I've used. This is something local. And then the other one I'm going to do with honey and maple sugar for about 50-50. Now before we get started, this is gonna be a lot like charcuterie sausage, where everything comes off of the weight of the meat. So general rules of thumb, I'm looking for about 1% of the weight of the meat to be in sugar, about 1.75 to 2% to be in salt, 0.25% is gonna be pink salt, and then anything else you want after that. If you want garlic, throw some of that in, but that's the ratio that I want to use. So 2% basically of salts, a quarter of that being pink salt, number one, and then sugar being 1%. Since we are doing equilibrium brining, we don't need to have any water. We just need to have a vacuum sealer ready to go, which is over here. So first things first, let's get a weight on these suckers. Our first one, a little bit of fat on here. You could pull some of this off. It's not too thick, so I'm actually gonna leave it on. We're looking at 927 grams. And then for the second, also a little bit of fat. We could pull it off, but I'm going to leave it on. We are looking at 861 grams. So those are the starting weights that we are going to determine how much we need of our seasoning. To be honest, guys, this is a perfect time for you to go get yourself a digital scale. I use mine all the time, especially if you plan to make, charcuterie, sausage, bacon. Having that really dialed in level lets you make it really fine-tune adjustments. And when you're working with something like a nitrite, you kind of need to be kind of careful with the amount that you put into your food. But to start with, we have 927 grams of meat for our first piece. 1.75% is about 16 grams. So I'm going to do about 17 grams of salt. And since we are going by weight, you can also use any salt you want. Table salt will work. Kosher salt will work. I have a whole bunch of kosher, so I'm just going to get about 17 grams of kosher salt. It's about that. So that's all the salt that we need to use. I'm going to get all of our ingredients and put them into a container. And then for the other one, we have 861. So 1.75% of 861 is about 15 grams. Now for our curing salt, this is where you want to be precise. 927 comes out to about 2.3 grams, which is about a half a teaspoon. And for the 861 gram, that's about 2 grams. Now for our sugar, this is actually pretty interesting, guys. If you've never had maple sugar, it's really, really good. It's not the cheapest thing ever, but I'm from the Northeast, so it's not super hard to get. You can get it online. It smells really good. It has a great maple smell to it. And it's just sugar, just with a whole inch maple in there. But if you're looking for a bit of a pro tip, guys, toss this on some popcorn. I'm telling you, it is absolutely fantastic. But at 1% here, that's usually the amount of sugar that I like to put in bacon. Any more than that, and it'll start to burn. So I'm looking for 1%, which was all on one. And then the other one, I'm doing about half of that, so about 0.05% of maple sugar and the other 0.05% of honey granules. Both of which I'm just assuming are sugar substitutes. So you might be thinking this does not look like a lot, and honestly for equilibrium brining we don't need a lot. Because we're going to pressurize it and take out all the oxygen, it's really going to absorb all of this salt, pink salt into the meat, And we don't need as much as we would if we were going to just, wet brine or dry brine and let it do its thing. So the very fact that we're going to vacuum seal this sucker and pull out all the oxygen is going to force it to really do the curing and do a lot of the heavy lifting for us. So I'm just going to mix this all up nice and good. If we were using some thicker stuff, you might want to grind it all together. I don't think that's going to be necessary. I think just enough mixing by hand should do the job. Now these amounts are carefully measured for the pieces of meat. So we actually want to make sure that we get all of this onto this meat. The way I'm going to do that is probably just take a bowl, like so, toss our meat in and just start to try and get every single piece, every single side of it coated in our mixture. And then it's going to go into a vacuum seal bag and then we're going to seal it up. Then we just need to vacuum seal this. I'm going to do our other pork loin. You don't need to watch me do it. It's the exact same process. The goal is just to make sure you get everything onto that pork loin and into a bag. Then I'm going to tell you how we're going to actually cure this and anything special we need to do and how long we should be shooting for. And boom, all vac sealed up. Now, side note guys, if you have a vacuum seal that you recommend, please let me know because I am starting to hate mine because it is not doing a good job anymore. Anyway, so what we want to do now is determine how long we actually want to cure it. Based on the size, the thickness of our cut of meat, the rule of thumb that I've gone by, and I think I found it online a long time ago, is about, for every 1/4 inch, it's a full day. So this is about 2 inches. So we're looking about maybe 8 days, and then throw on like 2 days for good measure. So we're looking about 10 days of curing on these suckers. Now what I'm going to do in my fridge is put these on a wire rack, and like every day, just flip them over, and just keep doing that. Maybe it's not necessary, but that's what I've always done. And I feel like that just lets enough, pressure on each side, get everything good. But these are going to go in for at least 10 days, and I'll come back and reassess at that point. Today is the day, my friends, and our pork loins should be fully cured. Looking at them, this one's got a little bit of gray on there, but don't worry, I think that's just oxidation. This vac seal didn't actually work too well, let in a little bit of air in there, so I think that's just oxidation. But the other one has a nice pink color to it. I think these are good. Now, what we can do is actually just smoke them off now. I think they should be all set. But there is a chance that they are too salty. So what you can do is you can cut off a small piece and then just fry it up and make sure the salinity is where you want it to be. If it's too salty, you can soak this in half-hour increments. That'll start to draw out some of that salt, and then you can refry it, see if it's where you want. If it's not salty enough, you could add more salt, vac seal it, and then let it do its thing, keep brining, and that should increase the salinity. I'm going to quickly cut off a little piece and fry it and make sure everything's good. And if it is, we will get going with smoking these. One taste test later, and I'm good to go. Not too salty, just where I want them to be. Good flavoring on them. I'm going to smoke these at 180 degrees, and I'm going to run them until the internal temperature is about 145. At that point, they're going to go in my fridge, wrapped up, and whenever I want some Canadian bacon, I'll slice off a piece and then fry it up. As far as wood choice, you can use apple wood, you can use maple wood, you can use whatever you want. I'm going with fruit wood today, and now I'm going to get my smoker up at 180 degrees, and let's get these things smoked off. Smoker's up to temp, and I just threw our pork loins on. Like I said, going to run these to about 145 degrees internal, and run them at 180. Get as much smoke on there as I can, and then we're going to pull them. So I'm just going to let them do their thing. Probably going to take a couple hours. Just keep monitoring them. Let them just keep running. I've been smoking at 180 for about 4 hours, and honestly, these are done. I'm going to pull them off and let them cool off completely, and then they're ready to be used. Cut off slices you want, fry them up. Now, you could, if you really want more smoke, let them go all the way down to cold temperature, and then throw them back on here and smoke them all the way up to 140 again. I wouldn't do that. You might really dry it out and cause some issues, but if you wanted a lot more smoke flavor, you could absolutely do that. At this point, like I said, I'm going to take them out, cool them off a little bit, then wrap them in saran wrap and put them back into my fridge. Kind of let everything just relax before I actually cook it up for dinner tonight. But they do look pretty beautiful, huh? Nice little loaves of deliciousness. These 2 slabs of Canadian bacon have had enough time in the fridge to cool off, so it's time to cut off some pieces, give them a nice fry up, and see how we did. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but that looks like Canadian bacon to me. Nice and hammy looking. Get some from the other. So the one on this side is our maple Canadian bacon, and this is our honey maple on this side. They both look pretty similar. They got a great smell to them. Got some nice color on them. What I want to do now is fry up these pieces, and then let's give them a taste and see how we actually did. Now, one of the best things about making your own bacon day, guys, is your entire house is going to smell like bacon when you're frying this up. These look perfect. I mean, you have that perfect hammy looking color, which is what we were looking for. Everything smells great. I fried them up. They have a nice amount of fat on them from that pork loin, but not too much. I mean, this is a Canadian bacon, not your standard bacon. So pork belly bacon usually has a bunch more fat, gets a bunch more crispiness to it. You know what bacon looks like. Canadian bacon is somewhere between a ham and your pork belly bacon that you're used to. I like it a lot. It's got a much more of a meatier feel to it, but it has much less fat. So it's really good on sandwiches. Maybe not as much for just, eating some pieces of bacon, but it is really, really good. Now this maple flavor smells really good, and the honey maple should be pretty similar, but just with a little bit more of a honey taste to it. Now that equilibrium method is super easy, guys. You basically throw your math into a calculator, and on the other side, you're gonna have the exact same results every single time. That's why I like that method. But the proof is obviously in the pudding. So it's time to give these a taste test, guys. I'm gonna go with just the standard maple, see how we did. This is perfect. It's got a good maple back end to it. It's not too salty. It tastes like Canadian bacon. It's gonna be really good on a sandwich. The sweetness is not overpowering, especially when you plan to put, maple syrup on your breakfast as well. This has just a nice flavor on the background. You have really, really good smoke flavor on here as well. Perfect. Now let's see if there's any real noticeable difference with the honey. I haven't done the honey versus the maple before. I've done the maple, but I had the honey granules lying around, so I kind of wanted to see if we could get a little bit of a different flavor on here. Time to give it a try. It is definitely a little bit of a different sweetness. They both have the same amount of sugar. I measured it out by sugar. This is definitely a little bit on the kind of the honey flavor. Obviously, this has more of that mapley flavor, as you'd expect. They're both really, really good, guys. And I will absolutely make both of these again. This was a fun cook. We now have about 5 pounds of Canadian bacon, and I'm super excited to use this for our breakfast. Guys, absolutely give this a try. If you've been interested in trying to make some bacon, especially Canadian bacon, you can't go wrong with this recipe. If you guys do end up making this recipe, please let me know your thoughts down below. If you have a different type of recipe or a different style of bacon you want me to try, also let me know. Have you ever done equilibrium method? Do you just do the standard wet brine? Be curious to know what you guys' thoughts are. As always, guys, cook something fantastic, and I will see you on the next barbecue. Bye-bye.